Alright, hello. Welcome to this video. I'm going to go over how to add the TBO indicator as well as the backtesting strategy to your TradingView chart, where to find them, all that good stuff, and then I'm going to jump into some of the settings just so you can understand the ideas behind them and all that good stuff. Alright, so the first thing you'll want to do is, if you haven't already, you'll need to sign up, and then once you've signed up and everything is processed, make sure your username is correct for TradingView. And if you haven't watched the sign up video first, go ahead and do that if you're not familiar with how to sign up. But once you've done that and everything is verified, you'll be added automatically. And then once that happens, you can come up here to your indicators area, and then an invite only scripts will show once you've been added to a third-party indicator. You'll come here and you'll select the TBO and then the strategy. I've already got them on my chart here, so they'll show up here. And then they'll show on your chart here. And if you're not familiar with TradingView and just the chart dynamics or how to manipulate the chart, you can come up here and go to the Help Center. They've got a lot of good information, lots and lots of information that you can utilize there. So this is the indicator. The big difference between an indicator and a strategy is, one, up until recently, they've recently been upgrading the strategies, but up until recently you had to use indicators primarily for alerts. So if I wanted to add an alert on one of these plots, which is a symbol here, then I would come here and go and select the TBO and then choose one of the alert conditions that are already pre-programmed, or I could use one of the native functions here, and I could do I could select and then go by one of the plots here or something like that. So this was the primary way, and it still works, it's still useful. I don't see any other changes necessary for, you can still use this to have connections to third-party platforms via the webhook URL and do everything you need to there. But recently the backtester has been updated, or the strategy version has been updated in TradingView, the overall platform, not via us and our code or anything like that, but you can now incorporate alerts via strategies, and so you can go off of just the strategies by themselves without necessarily having the indicator. So this just been changing over time, and I'm sure it'll continue to change over time. But the backtester is as it sounds. It's a strategy version. That's what it's called in the actual Pine script. And what it does is it shows you hypothetical trades based on previous, the previous chart patterns and all that kind of stuff based on your settings. And it'll show you some output down here. If you're not familiar with this area, the strategy tester area, I would suggest coming down here and clicking on this little help icon, and it'll show you all the different settings and explain everything in depth, which is super helpful. Alright, so let's jump into some of the settings. Let's see. They're basically, they're going to be mirrored because they're both basically the same thing, except with the backtesting version, you're going to have different settings on the bottom here because of how the actual backtesting, how to actually, it needs to know which orders to actually facilitate, and you do so by accessing those settings. So let's just start with the initial TBO, and then we'll jump into the backtester. So the top part here are the custom trend strength settings. Now by default this is unchecked, and the reason being is the TBO itself has native default settings that are not public. They're just already hard-coded into the TBO itself, but the option is there. If you wish, you can change some of these trend settings, and if you select the enable, you'll see here that now everything changes. So you can come in here and manipulate, say, the TBO fast trend line, the TBO medium trend line, the TBO medium fast trend line, and then the TBO slow trend line. So, and if you want to see, the trend lines in action here, you can come down and look at the style and you can see what's what. You also have, if you're not familiar with the data window, you also have a data window which shows all the plots here. So it shows where your TBO fast is, and you can manipulate the indicator how you wish and change the looks of it and all that good stuff here. So these are your trend settings. That's what's going to handle your clouds. That's going to handle your the averages, the different kinds of moving averages that are incorporated into the settings here. But these are basically your overall trend settings. Next, we've got the TBO long short with RSI, and if you enable this, what's going to happen, and you've got tooltips here, if you just hover over them, it has a short explanation. But the TBO long and short, so the TBO long is the green triangle, the TBO short is the kind of pink, I guess magenta triangle going down. And what this does is it enables the RSI as a requirement as well, as well as the TBO long or short as well. So it's a think of it as like an and requirement rather than an or. And the best way to manipulate this and kind of see how things change is to actually add the RSI indicator to your chart and then see how things line up. So you can come here and set greater than or less than for the short RSI band or the long RSI band, and this will change how the TBO reacts based on the RSI. So if I enable this, you'll see here automatically all those long short symbols disappear because the settings are set in a way so that they're very broad. So I recommend, like I said before, go ahead and add the RSI so you can see, all right, well, where is the RSI in relationship to what's happening on the chart? And so if I wanted the RSI to be more sensitive to something around here so that the open long would happen, then I could change in the settings here, okay, well, where do I want the short or the long band to actually trigger as well as the open long signal. Okay, and then I wonder if I should get rid of these. Yeah, I'll just leave them, that's fine for right now. So I'll disable that for right now. Now the open long is a combination of short-term and medium trend strength. So whenever you get across the short-term and the medium trend strength, you'll have an open long. Reverse of the open short. I can go through some of the symbols here, and there's a key on the actual the website here. It kind of gives you a breakdown of what's what, and I'll do that here as well. So like I said, the open long, open short is a short term / medium term crossing where the short term goes either up or below the medium term. The closed short and closed long has a couple more combinations that's similar to the open and closed short, but it has some more combinations that have it so that it's more of a delayed effect to try and catch some more of these dips here for the closed short, and then try and catch more of the tops here for the closed long. So it's trying to anticipate for the next move. So if you have a really good trend, so if we let's go to the 1 day, get rid of these here, you'll see here that what the close long is going to try and do is once it goes up, you're not going to necessarily catch the top of the trend, but once it starts thinking like, okay, it's starting to really get back to retracement, which could eventually be a reversal, then it's going to say, okay, you're starting to get into the cloud here, and then it's going to signal and say, okay, it's time to close along, in case maybe there's another up run, or maybe there's a reversal and it heads down. So different ways you can play it. And then same thing with the short here, it's going to try and catch towards the bottom, and it'll signal here. If there's a huge wick up, sometimes you'll get a symbol for the closed short, which you know, you could almost use it as a long entry as well. So there's just different ways that you can incorporate it. Next, we've got the cross up and cross down. These are more like, think of it, the best way I can think of it is breathing in and breathing out. They're continuous movements in the midterm trend strength of the market. So for instance, think of this as not necessarily with the green and the red, although it does tend to follow the market, but think of it as a starting and an ending and a starting and an ending of a movement. Let me see if I can let's go to the 1 hour here. There's more action. So best thing here to see is probably like, okay, there's a movement here that's going down. So boom, it goes down, and then it kind of retraces a little bit here. And then we've got a cross up. So now we're saying, okay, that was probably the end of this previous downward movement. We might have a reversal that's going to come up. And then we've got another cross down. And then we've got a cross up here. And so this is a slow movement upwards. It starts to kind of fall off again, and then it says, oh, okay, well, it's kind of petering out a little bit, so let's do a cross down, and then you'll see it kind of goes down a little bit, and then, so think of it as just movements in the market that are indicating, okay, this move has happened, it's going, all right, this is maybe about the time of, you know, kind of petering out some there. It's just a different indicator, it's just a different symbol, and it's kind of a middle ground between the closed short and the closed long, as well as the open long and open short. So think of it as just a medium mid-range changes. All right, next we've got I think I went through, yeah. So then we've got the breakdown and the breakout. So the breakout is, they're similar, they're just reverse. It's a multiple combination of different factors. So there's let's see, volume, there's strength, there's trend strength, there's you know, pressure, there's you know, I'm trying to think of different ways to say it without it giving too much away in terms of what's the driving factors, but the best way to describe it is the more that you have on your chart, the more likely, you know, it's not definitive, of course, just like no indicator is definitive, but it's just saying that there's enough market variables that are lining up to say, okay, boom, this looks like a breakout that's about to happen. And usually if there's a cluster of them, then it signs a better chance of things happening. Not always is that the case. You can see here that we had some breakouts here and it didn't actually, you know, nothing ended up happening, and you know, sometimes that happens. And then other times you've got a combination of other techniques and things, then you come in and you see, oh, okay, yeah, I've also got a breakout symbol, then maybe I can expect a breakout here as well. So this is kind of a Swiss Army knife in terms of, you know, there's the TBO in general, it's a Swiss Army knife. I would say with the breakouts, it's better in an actual nice trend. You'll have a better reliability with those, whereas if it's sideways, just like any initial breakout, it's kind of hit and miss. If it happens and a trend follows, then your breakouts are going to do, I think, much better. Same thing with breakdowns. All it is just breakdowns in reverse. So, you know, if you're in sideways choppy movement, just because this is a trending indicator, it's going to have false positives just like any trending indicator will, just because that's not their specialty. Their specialty is to follow the actual trend and then follow the opposite trend. Then we've got the support and resistances here, which are shown by the green and red dots. They'll flip between the green and red, you know, based on the price action, but you can see support and resistance zones which comes in handy when you're trying to do either buys or sells or things of that nature. Kinds of gives you an idea of where previous resistance was and all that good stuff. Let's see, next we've got the static long and the moving average for this is the DHP long, and what this is basically a volume pump, so it could be either down or up, either way, and you'll see that these will show up once it's enabled, and I'll go through the settings here in just a second, but you'll see here, and all this is basically if volume crosses X threshold, meaning if it's the moving average, it'll cross a multiple of the moving average, and then if it's static, you're setting an actual threshold, so let's say 70,000 or something like that, then it will trigger, you know, that symbol there. And then lastly, we've got the trend settings, or the clouds, and this is basically just showing the fast, medium, and long trend, kind of showing like, okay, here's the resistance, and then once the clouds start getting thinner and thinner, you can start anticipating, okay, maybe there's a reversal. And oftentimes what I've noticed with the TBO is you know, you'll start getting some closed short symbols. If we're down, you'll be bouncing around on the support for a little while, and then once this starts getting thinner and thinner and thinner, there's more of a chance of like, okay, something's about to happen. Maybe there's going to be a slow reversal or something like that. And you know, same thing with the opposite. So let's jump into the actual settings here, now that you know what the symbols look like and all that good stuff here. So I told you about the RSI, so easiest way again is just to add the RSI and see kind of how things line up. We've got the take profit settings here. If you want to see, you know, maybe you want to set some alerts for take profit or something like that, then all you have to do is select this, and then you'll see take profits, and you can adjust those how you wish. This is the DHP volume that I was telling you about. If you select static here, then it's going to have the 20,000. It's just the default, nothing special. But what you'll do is you can come down here and see, okay, well, if this pump or this short happened, what was the volume for it, and then what do I want my threshold to be. So if I have, let's see here, this is around 38,000. Oh no, that's the I wonder if I can add this to a new pane. That'll be easier. There we go. Okay. So let me change this to something super low. There we go. Alright, now if I look over here on my volume, this little pump down, or panic down, I guess you could say, the volume was around 190, 129. So if I want to catch that with this static, then having it set at 100, it'll start showing up. And so as soon as it crosses your volume threshold, so as soon as this volume bar crosses 100, which on the 1 hour, you know, you can't really see until after the fact, but as soon as it starts going up and it actually hits that, then it's going to show this symbol here. And so you can have an alert plugged into that as well. You can come down here to the TBO and choose static long pump or static short pump, you know, if it's going down here, and do it with a you know, once per bar close, or once per bar. The differences between these here, the once per bar close is only going to trigger if the condition is true at the end of the bar. So when the bar actually fully closes, if the condition is still true, it's going to fire. If it's once per bar, then it's going to happen as soon as the condition is true. The only drawback with if it's once per bar is sometimes the conditions, because, you know, it's a fluid market and it changes, it'll be true, a symbol will show, but then the price will change and it'll go back, and then the condition will no longer be true. But because you have it set to once per bar, the alert will fire, but then it may go back and that condition is actually no longer true. So then you'll come and look and you'll see, oh, okay, well, I got an alert, but I don't see anything. That's because the condition was true at one point, it fired, and then it was no longer true due to price action. Okay, where am I? Here, settings. And then the multiple, the MA, you can have both of them set here. You're gonna have basically a multiple of the moving average. So this orange line down here is the moving average for the volume, and I think it's set to 20 as well. It is. And so what you can do here is just, sorry, I'm all over the place right now. What you can do here is just change the average to match whatever volume you have showing here, just to make it easy to see. And then this is going to trigger when there's a multiple of that average. So for instance, it would need to be 60 for the symbol to actually show. And you can see here that there are symbols here, and you can use these as little scalping moves, or however you want to use them. All right, so that's the indicator, and then the backtester is basically the same thing, except for just a couple extra items here. So the first difference here, this is basically like the start of the strategy area, I guess you could say. There's a look back section, so you'll come here and you'll choose your start date. By default it's set to 2009 in January, and then there's an end date that just goes on forever. Next we've got the open long triggers, and by default there are 4 that are available. There's open long, close short, cross up, and breakout. And then to actually have the strategy react to this particular order, all you have to do is enable it. By default, you've got open long, and then to close this long, you've got the open short command. So what this is saying is when there's an open long, oops, I'll just do this one here. But when there's an open long, go ahead and do an entry into the market for a long position, and then when there's a close or an open short, go ahead and close this open long and then open a short instead. And the way that works here is there's a mapping, and you can see here we're open long, so we're going to enter a long position, and then we're going to close our long position with these down here. And then you think of this like, okay, I want to close my long position. What signal do I want to close it with? I want to close it with the open short, because that's saying, okay, we're going to, it's an open short position. And to actually map this to your open long position, then I need to specify, okay, well, what position did I enter with, or what signal did I open with? Well, I opened with the open long, so I can come down here and I choose open long because that's the one that I want to close. You can also do other kinds, so if you have an open short, so if I do this here, so let's say I've got an open short now instead, and that is the orange, and you'll see here we've got one that opened here, so it's not going to continue to open them unless you have pyramiding on, which is in your properties here, which just allows multiple orders to open. But let's say, okay, I want the open or the close short to be my long entry, but then if there's a short that's going to open or something like that, then I also want to close that. So then all I have to do is come to my open short here, make sure that's enabled, and then I'm going to close my open position with that. And then you'll see here whenever there's a short, it closes. You can see exit close short. I opened a long position here based on the close short signal, and then it closes it here. So this is, it's a little confusing at first, but once you get used to actually manipulating everything, the important things here to remember is say, okay, how am I going to open the position? What signal am I going to use? Okay, I'm going to use the open long. How am I going to close my long position? What signal am I going to use? Okay, I want to use the open short to close my long position, and then I actually want to make sure that this signal, this closed signal, is actually mapped to whatever I have specified. And the last thing you can do is have kind of a catch-all situation. You can have it close all, so if you have multiple that are open and then you want like, oh, okay, it's gonna short, I want to close everything, then you can select all and it'll close all open positions there. And then the same is true in reverse on the short side. So you're just going to say, okay, what signal do I want for an open short position? Okay, so I want the open short, boom, that's enabled. And then what do I want to close it with? Okay, I'm going to close my short when there's an open long signal, and I'm going to make sure that my open short, because that is selected for the actual open position, this is going to close that open position. And then that's pretty much it. The rest of it is the same. It's just you've got your metrics down here that you can see, and that's pretty much it. Whew. All right, well, I know that was a lot to take in, but if you re-watch the video, I'm sure you'll be able to absorb it more and more. You do have alerts that are available based on the indicator itself. I'm working on incorporating alerts for the strategy. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be viable just yet, because there are so many combinations in the settings themselves here. You know, or sorry, in the strategy here, there are so many settings based on these variables here of different ways that people could use it. I'm not sure it's possible that I'm actually going to be able to incorporate the strategy alerts, because the main difference in a strategy alert is the alert has to be generated from the code itself, which means that I have to have all the different possible ways of, you know, things generating incorporated into the code itself, and I'm already pretty close to the limit of what TradingView allows for the actual length of the code. So yeah, it's challenging. I'll see if I can do it, and I'll post another video and another update. But I hope you guys have good trades. Good luck with everything. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out in email at support@poobahcryptoservices.com, or even better, if you join us in the community, you'll have other people's input as well. All right, take care.